Welcome back to Shadows and Mystery. I'm your host, and tonight we step deeper into the unknown. This isn't just another episode. There are no rules, no patterns, only stories. 6 accounts, sent by real people, from real places, each one more disturbing than the last. Stories that linger in the dark, waiting to be heard. I'll be honest, some of these made me stop and question everything I thought I understood. So turn off the lights and listen closely, because once you enter these shadows, you may not see things the same way again. Our first story tonight is about a woman named Danielle. She grew up in a house next to a funeral home that her family had owned for generations. She says she considered almost everything that happened there normal, until one night when she was 16. She said that as she walked past the preparation room, she got used to not being afraid of death like most people. She stopped shuddering at the smell of formaldehyde. She stopped spending sleepless nights wondering what was on the other side of the wall. At least, that's what she told herself. She was 16 when her father came home from work and told them at dinner that the body they had received that night was in bad shape. He didn't elaborate. He never did when she was at the table, but her mother's expression told her it was serious. He said she would have to start early the next day to have it ready in time. They finished dinner and went to bed. She woke up thirsty. She didn't know the exact time, but she said it was late. She walked down the hall toward the kitchen, and the light in the adjoining hallway was on. The door separating the house from the prep area had a frosted glass panel, one of the old-fashioned kind. She said she'd walked past it thousands of times without a second thought. But that night, there was a figure behind it. A man, standing, motionless. She told herself it was her father. He said he'd come back to check on something. She was 2 steps from the kitchen when she noticed the figure's left arm, or rather, its absence. Where the arm should have been, there was nothing. Just a flat edge of shadow where the shoulder ends and the arm begins. And then nothing. Her father had told them at dinner that the man they'd brought home that night was missing an arm. They'd found him like that. She screamed. Her father came running. He saw it too. He turned paler than ever before. He went inside to see. When he returned, he told us both, very calmly, sometimes they don't realize they're gone. They'll come looking for him tomorrow. Don't open that door tonight. He said it as if it were a house rule he'd forgotten to mention. The family came to get the man the next morning. We never spoke of it again, but I never walked past that frosted glass at night without holding my breath. Danielle mentioned that her father has already retired. She says she's trying to convince him to call into our live show on Thursdays, hoping he will. The following account is from Marcus. He submitted it from Oregon. He says it happened over a 4-week period during his sophomore year of college, and to this day he doesn't know what triggered it or what stopped it. It started with nightmares. Nothing in particular, just the kind that leave you feeling uneasy for the rest of the day. Then they got worse. Then they stopped being just dreams. One night, around 2 a.m., I was alone in my apartment when something sat on the edge of my bed. I felt the mattress compress. I didn't hear anything. I didn't see anything when I turned on the lamp. But the feeling of weight, the movement of the springs, that was real. It lasted about 20 seconds. Then it was gone. It happened again 3 nights later. This time, whatever it was moved. Not toward me, just shifted restlessly, like it was sitting on the edge of the bed when it couldn't sleep, turning its thoughts over in its mind. I started sleeping with the light on. The worst night, I woke up at 3 a.m. to someone knocking on my bedroom door. 4 slow knocks. I asked who it was. No one answered. I got up, opened the door, nothing. There was no one in the apartment. The windows were locked. I was alone. 2 nights later, I heard a child's voice on the other side of the door. This time, he wasn't knocking, but talking. I couldn't make out the words. The voice was low and close, as if his mouth were pressed against the wood. I pushed the dresser in front of the door and prayed until I fell asleep. A week later, I woke up and it was just over. Nothing happened. Nothing has happened since. I've never understood what he wanted. I'm not even sure he wanted anything. Maybe he was just passing through. Marcus says the apartment complex was built in the 1940s and has had a constant turnover of tenants. He investigated the building's history after these events and found nothing unusual. Sometimes that's more unsettling than finding something. I want to make it clear that the following story was submitted by someone who worked in hospital pathology for over a decade. They requested anonymity. They state that this is the only experience in their career for which they never found a rational explanation. They comment that she arrived mid-morning, a woman in her 40s. Unexpected death. Her name, for privacy, I'll call her Mrs. Carroll. When I arrived for my shift, Dr. Reese had already processed her admission. He pulled me aside before I even put down my bag and said, "She's been getting away." I thought he was joking. He wasn't. She had been placed in her assigned drawer twice. Both times she was found out of place. The first time, the drawer was simply ajar and had been moved. The second time, before I arrived, Dr. Reese walked in and found her on the railing, halfway out of the unit. He said the drawer was locked. While the 3 of us were in the break room discussing the matter, our assistant returned from lunch and asked why we had moved Miss Carroll again. We hadn't. We went in together. Miss Carroll was on the floor outside her assigned unit. Not quite outside. Her feet were outstretched and her body was tilted to one side. It looked less like she had fallen and more like she was getting up. I fell asleep at my desk that afternoon. My colleague woke me. She was pale, trembling, and could barely speak. She managed 2 sentences. She was walking. I saw her walking. I don't know what she saw. She never gave me any details. She was transferred to another department the following week. What I can tell you is that later that evening, Dr. Reese and I sat with Miss Carroll in the cold room and just talked. We told her she was okay. We told her her family was on their way. We asked her to rest. She stayed where we left her. Her family arrived the next morning. Whatever was happening, it stopped. Clara, from San Antonio, sent this letter. She lost her grandmother 2 years ago. This happened the morning after the funeral. Clara tells us, "My grandmother had a ritual every morning for as long as I can remember. Before I left for school, before I left for work, she would sit on the back porch in the same folding aluminum chair and watch me leave. She would wave until I was out of sight. Always. Without exception. The morning after her funeral, I walked to my car, dazed. It was a habit she hadn't broken, looking toward that porch before leaving. She was there, sitting in her chair. One hand raised, waving as she always did. Slow, deliberate, as if she had all the time in the world. I waved back. I don't know why. I just raised my hand. When I looked again before pulling out of the driveway, she was gone. The chair was empty. I wasn't afraid. That's the part I always come back to. After everything that happened that week, seeing her there made me feel good. like she'd waited just long enough to say a proper goodbye. Clara, thank you for trusting us. Some stories on this show are terrifying, others are simply very human. This one is both. This story was told to us live by a man who only gave his first name, Hector. He spoke softly, pausing frequently. He said he had never told this to anyone outside his family. What he described is unlike anything in our records. Hector's story. I started working as a night watchman at the old county cemetery when I was 22. My uncle managed it during the day. It seemed easy. Sit, keep watch, keep trespassers out. Nothing ever happens in a cemetery at night. That's what I told myself. The first night, a stray dog slipped through a gap in the fence. It was thin and friendly. I gave it some bread I had, and it followed me around for a while. Then I heard it howl somewhere in the back. One howl and then silence. I went to look, but I couldn't find it. Instead, I found 3 graves with the earth disturbed and one almost empty. It wasn't unearthed, but disturbed, as if something had come out from inside. I stayed near the guardhouse until morning, and then I looked again in the daylight. The empty plot was full, as if it had never been touched. The second night, I carried a machete. Around midnight, I heard the dog again, but it wasn't the dog. It was the dog's body, placed outside the guardhouse. In a state I won't describe. The window was open behind it. I went to get my uncle. We returned with 2 neighbors, both armed. We waited. Shortly after 2 a.m., one of the men spotted it among the farther graves. It moved like a snake, sideways, low, fast, but it had a human head, not metaphorically, a human face, eyes that stared right at you. They shot until it stopped moving. Its belly was swollen. They said it had eaten. I saw his jaw open, how he tried to empty himself to escape. He couldn't. He died between 2 gravestones. When my uncle returned in the daylight, he found a set of clothes beside the back fence. He said he recognized them. He said they belonged to a man from the village who everyone thought had left. I grew up hearing stories about people who made deals, people who could shapeshift. I always thought they were just stories. I don't believe them anymore.